If you are going through a breakup, then you are experiencing a loss, which means you're probably going to experience grief. And grief can be confusing, it can be all consuming, it can sneak up on you when you least expect it. But did you know that you could have boundaries with your grief? And that really helps you to get through and to start to move on with your life when you start to set those boundaries. So I'm going to teach you a simple tip and a trick that you can do to help you start to set those boundaries. Hi, my name is Olivia, and I'm passionate about helping you understand what relational trauma is so that you can heal and move on with your life. So today, everything is coming from my book, I Can't Believe How Much This Hurts, How to Process Your Breakup. I will put a QR code on the screen to the book on Amazon, and there's also a link in the description. So today, everything starts on page 4, which is where, if you're watching this video due to a breakup, however long it's been, that's the beauty of the exercises found in the book, is it doesn't matter how long ago your breakup was. Maybe you just never dealt with it, or maybe it just happened and you're already sick of dealing with it because it's already overwhelming. Then these tips can help with whatever stage you're at in the breakup or however long ago it occurred. So we said it can be all consuming. Grief can feel like you're in the ocean, and sometimes it can be calm and you're like, oh, this isn't bad. And actually, I can see the birds again. I can feel the sun and I'm okay. And oh, I'm through it. But then like a storm can come where those waves can start to crash against you and start to feel like they're burying you and you're suffocating and you can't breathe. And it feels like out of nowhere sometimes. And that's really hard if you're like at work and all of a sudden that wave of grief just hits you and you really can't think about anything but that during those moments. But like we said, you can set boundaries with your grief. So it's hard to set those boundaries until you learn just a bit more about grief. So grief has many faces. That's maybe one thing to sort of start to understand. Sometimes it can feel numb. So sometimes you just don't feel anything. When you feel like you're supposed to be or you should be crying, but you're not. You just can't feel anything. It's like you can't access emotion. It's just numbing. Sometimes it's shock. You can't wrap your brain around what's occurring or what someone's saying and what's happening. Sometimes you just feel like you're in shock. You can experience anger. Grief, you just feel really mad. Maybe, mad about the way it didn't go, mad about the way that it did go, mad that it just couldn't go the way that you wanted it to go. Whatever that anger is, or how you were treated, or mad at yourself for how you feel you may have treated someone. Also, I have rarely talked to someone who's experienced grief that doesn't express some form of regret. So I think regret is such a big part of grief. Maybe what you didn't do, what you feel you should have done, regret that you ever opened the door to this person. So there's lots of things that you could regret when you're going through grief, but also understanding this is normal. This is just my brain trying to work through and understand what it is I'm experiencing and why my pain is so great in this moment and not great at all in others. This is where it gets kind of confusing. Also, because you grieve all loss, even a necessary loss you're going to grieve, it can get confusing. So if I'm so certain that this is supposed to end and I feel just very strong in that and I'm glad it's ending and I just can't wait for the end to come, but then like I get through the end and now suddenly I'm so sad and I'm crying all the time and I have way more grief than I thought. I feel way more sadness than I thought. Then I may start to feel like I made the wrong decision. This was a mistake. If I'm this sad, then that must mean that we're supposed to be together. But the truth is an understanding, okay, even a necessary loss, I'm still going to grieve it. It doesn't mean it didn't need to happen. So if you find yourself in that place, understanding, it's okay. It's because this is a loss. This is why I'm grieving it. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Could it have been a mistake to end it? Possibly, but I won't know that till I'm on the other side of my grief because I can't really let my grief be my guide to my next steps. I need to just get through my grief first, if you can see the separation in that. So here is one thing that you can do to be able to set a boundary with your grief. You want to set aside time in your weekly schedule of when you're going to do some grief work. So let's say I decide, okay, well, Tuesday nights at 5 o'clock, that seems to be a pretty good time for me to be able to work on my grief. I don't have any other commitments. I don't have anywhere I need to be. So that's a good time. I'm going to say 5 o'clock Tuesday nights. Maybe I decide I want to do it before I eat dinner and maybe work out. So I want to be able to get it out of the way and done with so I can just move on with my night on Tuesday night. So then when Tuesday night at 5 o'clock comes, that is when I'm going to do my grief work. And early on, let's say I'm recently broken up and I'm really struggling, I may do my grief work multiple times in a day. I may also do my grief work multiple times in a week. So maybe I'll say like Tuesdays at 5, and I also have Thursdays at 7 available, and I also want to do it Saturday mornings at 9 because I seem to really struggle on Saturdays. So I want to wake up and get it out of the way. So what happens is when your brain is reminding you of this loss, it wants you to pay attention because it doesn't want you to experience this again. So if we try to ignore it or just distract ourselves or just push it down, that's where we tend to get those big waves. But when we set time aside and we say, okay, here's my Tuesday night at 5 or whatever day and time works for you, this is where I'm going to do my grief work so that when I'm at work, maybe on Monday at noon, and this memory comes up and I start to feel like, oh, that wave is coming for me and I can't do this right now, I need to be at work, then I can say, okay, brain, I'm going to take a quick note of what it is you're reminding me of. I'm going to put that in my notes section of my phone, and then I know Tuesday night at 5, I'm going to pull my notes section back out, and this is what I'm going to look at, and this is what I'm going to work through and think about. So this way, your brain starts to leave you alone because it knows, okay, she's aware or he's aware that this is going to be something that's going to be processed. I can stop reminding, my person that they need to focus on this so that we can be safe. And then it leaves me alone and I can go to work. So keeping track of that. But the key is we want to make sure that we are looking at what we were thinking about Monday at noon on Tuesday at 5 when we're doing our grief work. So it's important that you pick it back up. It's just like learning how to trust yourself, that you are going to get through it. So once you have your day or days of the week and your time or times of the week that you're going to be working on your grief work, then you also want to have some boundaries surrounding how long that's going to last. So it's not some, ambiguous or some undetermined length of time that you're going to be working on your grief work. You would want to set a timer and say, okay, I'm going to do it for 15 minutes, or I'm going to do grief work and look at what I'm going through for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour. So you would set a timer on your phone, and that's when you're going to start to do your grief work. So if you're feeling, overwhelmed, always take breaks. Takes as many breaks as you need. But if you're feeling so overwhelmed with your grief, then you definitely want to seek help because, of course, this is not therapy. This is not counseling. But you can see a therapist or a counselor in your local area. You can check with your insurance to see who they cover. You can also go through psychologytoday.com to find a therapist. Oftentimes, money is a barrier to therapy because it can be very expensive. So you can check with local universities in your area to see who has a counseling program. A lot of times they provide free counseling for their graduate students to be able to help the community and also let them get some time for their practicum or internships, those types of things. So those are always resources you have available to you. You can also go through your local counties to see if they have any programs. There are usually centers throughout areas that provide counseling on a sliding scale. They oftentimes get money that offsets through funding to be able to provide it at, low to no cost for therapy. So don't let money be a barrier if you're really struggling. If you can't get up, if you can't go to work, you're struggling to take care of your kids, you can't stop crying no matter what, like you're having thoughts of harm. So any of those types of things, you definitely want to stop doing the exercises and go get help from someone that can help you get through this part of your journey, because sometimes we do struggle more. Sometimes, the relationship was so terrible that when we come out the other end of it, we just feel so damaged and broken. We just can't seem to pick the pieces together for whatever reason. So those would be signs and times that you would want to do a bit more than a book, and you'd want to seek help in your area. So when we come back next time, I'm going to teach you an exercise that you can do while you're doing your grief work. So this would be what the grief work looks like. So today was all about learning how to set those boundaries, learning how to set the parameters, and also a bit more of, oh, okay, all these emotions I'm feeling, all this up and down and all of this confusion, all of that and regret, all of that is part of grief. So, and no wonder, because I did experience a loss. So again, you can go and find the book on Amazon. I will put the link in the description. There's also a course available. You can go watch these videos that I'm going to put on the screen to help you keep understanding more and more about relational trauma so that you can fully move on with your life. So take good care. I'm sorry you're hurting, and I'll see you in the next one.